Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We were meeting up again for this upcoming Shabbos. The parsha is Parshas Vayikra, very close to the holiday of Purim. We should really talk a lot about Purim too, but let's mention, because we just have a few minutes, a good idea about this parsha. And this is, in the end of this parsha, we're learning about a law of nefesh ki techta, the Torah says. Somebody will do a transgression and shall be disloyal to God. And what is the transgression we're talking about? Is that somebody gave him money to keep, and then when he asks him back for the money, he denies. So the question is being asked by Rabbi Akiva in the Talmud. It says, why is it called disloyal to God? It's disloyalty to the person between themselves, right? He gave him the money to keep it for him, and then he denies, so there's a disloyalty between them, and it's being called disloyalty to God. And Rabbi Akiva gives a very beautiful explanation, and he says that this is one story when two people have a deal between them, that one gives someone else money to guard for him, that nobody knows besides these two people. And because nobody knows, so one thinks he can cheat the other person because nobody knows. But they don't realize that God knows. And this is why this transgression is called disloyalty to God. Because this law, the idea of giving money one to another to keep, or to borrow, etc., when nobody knows, that's called, Rabbi Akiva says, disloyalty to the one above. And this is why the Torah says that you have to pay back, and you have to pay back 20%, because the disloyalty is to God himself. I just wanted to share a beautiful story about it. This story, the Rebbe said it once at a Fabringen. Beautiful story. But I'll do it very short. How related is it to this law? And how we have to be careful in the idea when I give someone money to get it back from him, the honesty between the two people. The story goes, I heard it from many different versions, but then I saw the Rebbe himself says the story. It's very interesting that he says the story, but he said it regarding something else. We can learn a lesson from that too. The story goes that there was in a town a very generous man, a wealthy man, that he was always be kind to everyone else in his community. And he always would lend money to a friend of his that he was not doing so well, but he would lend the money, the guy would do business, and then the week after would pay him back the money. That's the way it would be. Apparently what happened, that this wealthy Jew lended money to this fellow, and in the middle, that fellow passed away. When the fellow passed away, this wealthy man came to the kids and he said, that certain amount of money I gave to your dad, I want it back. They said, do you have any proof? He says, no, we just was between ourselves. I'm sure your father knows, but he's not around. So they said, if you have no proof, what can we do? So they went to the Beit Din, they went to the court, and he said, everybody trusts me, everybody knows that I'm an honest person, and I gave him the money. The father is not around, but I want the money back. And they should look, they have this kind of money, and he was not a wealthy guy. He doesn't have this kind of money. It's the money that I gave him. And they went to look, yes, there's a large sum of money. And so he said, it's my money. The kid says, but here's no proof. Why should we give it back to him? And the verdict was of court, the Jewish court, that the kids do not have to give back the money. If that's the law, the wealthy guy said, okay, he gave up the money. But the story goes on that this wealthy guy went later to the Baal Shem Tov, and he asked him a question. Rabbi, I have a big question to ask you. The court said, I listen, forget I give up this money, but I know the truth. And everybody around me knows the truth, that it's my money. So how's it possible that verdict of Bedin. This is a verdict of God. How is it possible this verdict should be that he doesn't have to give me the money? It's my money. I know it's my money. We know that God's verdict is always emet, it's always a truth. How could it be? So Baal Shem Tov answered him, and he said a very, very interesting point. He tells him, listen, the verdict of God is always right. But here it looks like to you that it wasn't right. And I'll tell you why it was right. Because you and this other fellow that passed away, you were reincarnated. In the previous lifetimes, both of you were here and you owe them money. Or for that reason, you both came back. You should pay him back the money. So yes, this money that you gave him, the way you see it, it's yours. But really, in the previous life, it was his. That's the story of Baal Shem Tov. Tells us the Rebbe from this a very strong, beautiful message. And he tells us, he says, the same thing works in everything else. There's certain things, and this is what the Torah says, that people know. There's certain things people don't know. It's just between me and you. The only one that knows is God. And God does the right verdict. So therefore, this is what Baal Shem Tov tells him. When you gave him the money, you paid him back a debt that God knew that you owe him from previous lifetime. What is the message the Rebbe said about that? Many times we get involved in a situation to help another person, to help this situation, that story. When I look into myself and I say, why me? Why do I have to get involved in a situation that does not belong to me at all? It's not my problem. Let him go to another rabbi. Why me? Why do I have to be involved in this? Says the Rebbe, that's the same answer. You know why you got involved? You know why it happened that you got involved? Because you really owe him. Not financially, but you owe him. And why do you owe him? Because perhaps in the previous incarnation, he did for you, and it's time for you to give back. So when you're giving back, when you're helping someone else, not necessarily money, in everything that you did for someone else, you owe him because previously he probably did for you. And therefore, the Rebbe concludes and he says, we should help another person, even I think it's not my place to help. I should really help because you never know. You probably owe him from before. And that's when you know that, you will do it with a great joy, with a great simcha to help another Jew. And this is what the Torah says, that when it's between two people that nobody knows, only God knows. That's why a disloyalty is to God, Rabbi Akiva says. And in order to pay back the other person, you don't know that you have to pay him back, but God knows. This is why he puts you in a situation, in a place that you can help the other person. Be happy that you can help someone else because you're paying him back by something that he owes you. Have yourself a good Shabbos. It was too long today, but we'll talk soon.